I just wanted to come to your question as into how did I, start getting to know that now this music is different, this music now is healing. So now this is what happens. So I would carry the bow proudly, walking in town, going home when the schools are closed, and I would meet a lot of diviners, sangomas, healers on the streets. And then they would always say to me, you are a healer. And I'm like, healer? No ways. No healer. Healer is for people like you. Me, I'm a student at Forte, and I'm frustrated right now because I have to learn this instrument so I can go to my exams. So I started getting to know who I am through that instrument. It's music. It's music that showed me the way of who I am. Where do I come from? And then people would start telling me stories that this instrument was played by their grandmothers when they take the kids to sleep. They would sit around the Ronavelle and then they sit around the fire. And then they kept on asking me, do you know of a lady called Matosini? And I'm like, I never met Matosini in my whole entire life. So this is how, like, briefly, how this whole shift from this high school kid, very confident of her opera, being an opera singer, trying to look, the parts, very Western,
Yes.
into like 360 degrees to coming back to the roots of where my ancestors were trying to draw my attention, to meeting these instruments. And the change did happen. So what I decided to do, I decided to call the music opera because geographically I am Xhosa from the Eastern Cape, right? And I have this background of opera. So I was like, okay, a Xhosa woman and opera should be Xhosa then. So then I started, because I was like, I'm not letting go of both. I'm going to take them and bridge them into one thing. So that's how the music came about, so yeah.
That's actually a lovely story. And I think especially that learning this instrument that was connected to your community and culture actually taught you so much about yourself, more than going through the opera training. And that understanding, how did it help you going forward?
Well, it helped a lot, Kirti, but at the same time, it was very difficult for me, growing up in a space where you are deprived your culture, you deprived your heritage. I didn't choose to grow up in a township. I cried myself most of the time because, it felt like there's so much I needed to know and there's so much I didn't know. And the worst thing, when my excitement was starting to rise, it was confusing because I couldn't find anyone in the village who know about this instrument. And I remember I used to, because Forte is situated right at the heart of the village, here in the Eastern Cape. So I used to travel long distances walking, finding old people who can still play this instrument so that they can teach me, not just like teaching me in the method system, like very school stuff, but I can have someone to hang around with and jam with. I was longing for that. I was longing for that comfort. I was longing for guidance, but then I didn't have it. So I kind of like had to figure things out my way, until I started having a dream again. So I dreamt that I met a woman, light-skinned, like very like coy features. She was wearing like a duke like me, but it's green and an orange dress, umbhaco, the traditional Xhosa dress. And her door where I was knocking in the dream, it was green. So rewind a bit. Then unfortunately, I had to drop out from Forte because my parents couldn't afford to pay my fees and everything was just messed up. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go out there with this instrument and start to launch myself, out there to the world. So instead of going out to start a music career in Johannesburg, like your typical, stories about artists leaving the Eastern Cape to go and be famous in Joburg recording music, I wanted to stay at home and start teaching children how to make their own instruments. But because I didn't have the resources, I didn't even know about the word funding at that time, I was just doing it out of my own heart. So I would share one instrument with the kids, have each child playing the instrument, form them into a small orchestra. We'd collect small stones, put them inside a bottle, start making our own shakers, like recycled materials, make sounds from twigs of trees, like plastics and all of that, put them together. So already, I was shifting to becoming someone now that is not just enjoying the music for herself, but wanting to share, and not really knowing that I am also going back to No Finish's wish of music being shared.